What's up, buddy? How are you, man?
Good. How are you, Matt? How you been, bro?
Tired, man. It's been a long week, dude.
I hear you. I'm in the same
Long.
boat as always.
Well, yeah, you guys are always busy.
Always, dude. But I like it that way. I like that. I'm always up against it. Like that's just kind of how I am during
It's
the
true.
day, and then at night I chill and I get stuff done.
I'm like you want to relax. You always envision relaxing until you are, and then you're like, well, what should I be doing with myself? Like, like I feel like I need to be busier.
I hear you. That's how
So
I feel all the time.
that's it, man. Well, I appreciate you hanging out and
No
talking.
problem, dude.
So for those who aren't familiar, I mean, you got a lot of projects going. So like, what's getting you going in the
Um,
morning? What's your passion right now?
oh man, I have so many things, but they're all like exactly what I love to do. So thankfully, I've been able to work this around my lifestyle, like my livelihood around what I love doing. So I do thrifting, picking, garage sales, estate sales, and I have a YouTube channel and TikTok and Instagram about it called American Arbitrage. And yeah, it just kind of basically just shows stuff I find, bolos, stuff to look out for that people can look out for. And I hope it teaches people what they can look out for. It's typically fairly easy to find stuff, stuff that you can find at any thrift store. Occasionally, if you watch my channel enough, you'll see me find the big hitter stuff, but typically it's just 15, 20, $25 items.
Yeah,
And
that
then I have, yeah, I do the same thing with sports cards. I have a sports card channel. I've got a podcast with a couple other resellers called Trash to Cash. I just started another podcast, a movie
wow.
podcast, with Dave, ADH Dave, if you know who he is. Dave, another
Dave,
reseller guy. Yeah, so I just like to stay busy and anything that's creatively interesting. At this stage in my life, that's what I've been pursuing. Thankfully, it's a blessing.
well, that's awesome, man. I know I'm a subscriber personally, so for those who aren't, make sure you're subscribing
Thanks,
to
man.
all of Carrie's channels. What like talk? I mean, obviously, you guys joke a lot about it, like on Trash to Cash, or people give you a hard time if they just know you like about like the degrees and doing this, and then obviously being a creator. You always hear the negativity side. Maybe talk about like the positive stuff that you get and like what motivates you to keep going.
I will say this: there is you. I mean, just because you have a microphone, people are going to be negative with you from time to time. But honestly, the positivity far outweighs the negativity. It really does.
Hmm.
As human beings, I think we tend to focus on the negative. It's more salacious. It's more entertaining. It's more
Right.
dramatic. But like the amount of people that say, oh, you've helped me do this. The amount of people who surprisingly will come up to me at a thrift store or a card show or things like that and say, I like your videos, keep them up. Just kind words, really simple interactions with just people showing their support. It's out there and it's out there in droves. And most people, that's how most people are. I think most people are fairly positive, at least in their interactions online, and know that
Yeah.
the stereotype is that people aren't, but you just really only hear the voices that aren't sometimes, and you block out the rest, or you don't factor in the fact that sometimes thousands of people watched and enjoyed your video and didn't even comment, let alone
Right.
said anything positive or negative. So
Right. I got you. I think that's true. I think the negativity tends to stand out more because that's the Karens and they're the ones who are gonna make kind of go out of their way to comment, and so that's
yeah, they're the ones that are most motivated. Typically, it feels like negativity is a little bit more of a powerful motivator in human nature, it seems.
that's true. Okay, cool, man. I appreciate that. Talk about like the card stuff, right? Like I know that Kevin and Dave, like everybody kind of gives you a hard time, like, oh, you flipped another dollar car, but
And I lean in. I lean into that because part of what I love about cards is that there's just an abundance of them and I enjoy them. And sometimes I'll sell cards that I know aren't super valuable just because I enjoy selling them, which is, an artistic way to do reselling and isn't necessarily. But thankfully, once again, I built my lifestyle around the fact that I'm filming all this stuff. I'm making profit on that end, on the cases where maybe I'm not making a huge profit on the actual individual items. But in general, most of the cards that I'm listing nowadays are more than $1.50. I only do those occasionally, and typically I'm listing $5 to $50 cards on a daily basis, as well as other stuff. I've been getting into it seems like every fall and winter I start to get into clothing more and more, and then kind
Yeah,
of like in the summer I get away from it for some reason. But so I went to the Deseret Industries here in Vegas today,
love them.
and got it. Yeah, got some great deals on just a bunch of Wranglers, pearl snaps. Nothing, mostly $15 to $25 stuff. And then occasionally you get lucky and you find something that's worth a lot more. But that's what I love. I love the hunt of it, and it's that's what I do, man. I love it.
Well, I think it's smart because like that's what I'll do. Like, I know like when at Boss the first year you came and like we were talking about like the bins here and stuff like that, and it's like do the T-shirt bros or the swap meet crew or like whatever. They're all looking for something very specific. It seems like a lot of times. So it's like I'll take those all day long if that's what is easy to find. Like it's
Oh
easier to
yeah,
find those, and those
that's what
five
I'm
will make up for your one shirt you hopefully find.
exactly. And another thing is like these lower end stuff. A lot of times will sell faster than the high end stuff.
Oh yeah,
There's a whole idea. Like I was listening, I think it was to a podcast today, and they were talking about how if you sell quickly on like Whatnot, for example,
yeah,
and you're making 10% profit, but you're selling an item every week at that 10% profit, right? Mine's typically a bit more than that, but let's just say it's 10%. Or you get one item and you wait 6 months and sell it at 400% profit. You're actually going to end up making more money selling the 10% every week to week.
that's
It's going to go up to a lot more. So I mean that's kind of my whole game plan is fast nickel over slow dime. Occasionally I'll find stuff that's worth a lot of money. A lot of times with cards, I do enjoy it recreationally. Like I'll go buy a box of cards, or I'll get in a case break or a box break, and I'll get a big card. Like last week, I got a one of one gold vinyl, like only one in the world of a rookie.
wow.
So I kind of name my price on that. I have it up like $1,000. It won't
Nice.
get that. It won't
Right.
get that much. It'll probably get 300 to 500, but like that's one I don't care if it sells right away. I don't
Right.
really care. So,
So
but
you,
in general, that's not something I'm like. I didn't buy into that thinking I was going to make money. I bought into that because I wanted something to do, to watch
oh, yeah,
and
it's like
have
a
fun.
double win.
Yeah, I got my entertainment because that was what I considered the cost was an entertainment cost, like going to a movie, and then I actually was profitable. But I mean, if you factor in all the times I wasn't profitable, I didn't. It evens out. But in that box opening is kind of
I,
gambling, really.
I got you. Well, you being a card guy, because like I love cards, right? I had cards growing up.
Oh
You
yeah.
go to a friend's house, you trade them, whether it was Pokemon or baseball or basketball, football, like whatever it was. Um, what are your thoughts on like Fanatics, like their live breaks, like the app and stuff like that? Have you gotten into that yet, or like in the industry, where do you see apps like that going?
I mean, it's smart for, in my opinion, it's smart for fanatics to get into it. I think Whatnot's the king, and they're not gonna surpass Whatnot. Whatnot was it's a lot of times like that. The first one to market is the one that's
Mm-hmm.
gonna be the biggest, and Whatnot is just the king, and that's probably how it's gonna be, barring like some sort of shutdown of the site. But Fanatics very well could be a very big, and Fanatics is going to be working with. It's a great thing that they can offer to card shops and stuff for breaking. It's like you're getting our boxes. We also are on our platform. There's a lot of things that they can do that Whatnot can't do. So I think it's going to be successful. It's not really. I don't consider it competing with Whatnot or anything, but um, I basically can get on it if I want. I've talked with them, but I don't really do breaking. And
Yeah,
and until I haven't been on the app enough to know if they do singles, but I can hardly keep up with Whatnot doing regular auctions, and
yeah,
and, and there's always other opportunities that I may take, but that one I may get on it at some point, but Whatnot I think at this moment is still the king, and just like eBay's the king when it comes to buy it now kind of listing sales for general merchandise, not
right.
like new stuff like Amazon. Mercari and Posh and all those other places have a market share and they do okay, but they're not eBay, and I don't think they'll ever be eBay.
I got you. I got you. What's one of those things that you would give like advice to folks? Because like for me, I'd be way more into cards if I like selling them, but it's more like that nostalgic, like, oh, I remember this player, I remember this player, the Sid Bream, the
Oh, Sid
Mark
Braves, yeah,
Lemke,
Pirates,
like I'm a
yeah,
'90s Braves, like
yeah,
as far as baseball goes. But
yeah. Mark Lemke, yes, know
how
very
about
well.
like that mental of not feeling overloaded? Of like, what are some tips you feel like you could give folks that would help them, for those who are like might watch and say, hey, this dude's crushing it on whatever he wants to do, right? Not necessarily following the trends all the time, but
Yeah.
what would you say to those folks? You know what I mean?
It's you got to be patient because I do invest a lot of time and money into this, and I'm not always every day to day like making money on it. Sometimes I make mistakes on things. You got to be patient. Number one, I think the most important thing if you want to get into card selling in particular, is you have to really be into it because it's just like
Market.
Pokemon cards and Yu-Gi-Oh
Mm,
cards. There's a massive market, probably bigger than sports cards even. But I
right.
don't understand it and I'm not into it enough to put in the effort I need to become an expert or whatever. But card stuff, I'm constantly learning. I'm constantly watching videos. It's like what I do for fun.
Mm,
So I would just say watch a lot of videos on YouTube. It's a endless, and I love what I love about YouTube, modern YouTube in general, for everything reselling
right.
related. When I started reselling 11, 12 years ago, there was like two people doing it. And one was talking about storage units. It wasn't really even my niche.
Yeah.
And the other guy was just motivating us. He was like, you gotta pay attention. Like it wasn't really practical what to look for advice. And 11, 12 years later, you can find YouTubers on any specific part of reselling that you want. Not just
Right.
sports cards, but people who like football cards. Not just football cards, but people who only sell low end football cards. Not just somebody who resells cards, but somebody who goes to flea markets like myself and resells, or
Mm,
somebody like I go to dollar boxes and bargain bins, which is a very particular aspect of card flipping. So get into something that you enjoy. If you like the '90s nostalgic stuff, there's a lot of great YouTube channels that focus on that, just on the card art and everything, and also on reselling and buying it.
mm,
Low end's the easiest entryway, the entry point, but it takes some time to make some real money on it. The positive is you don't have to pay much for that stuff. So if you want to add that as like a part of what you're doing reselling, I would just
right.
add it while you continue to go hard on what you're good at and just be patient with that and grow and say, oh man, if I get these cards at this price point and I can upload them quickly, or I got to make sure it's worth at least $20. Because the thing is, there's Mark Lemke autographs out there that are worth about $20, but you might
Yeah.
not be able to deal with the 1991 Donruss card. So you
Right.
just kind of have to find. But there is a massive demand, especially for the '90s Braves. Um,
Mm,
and there's sets and autographs and numbered stuff coming out almost in every set from that era of that team that you can find. And a lot of times, what I find a lot, and one of my sweet spots with cards is that kind of forgotten era, like the fact that I lived through it, and I realize, oh, a Donruss Elite card is numbered to 10,000 to a young person or
yeah.
somebody who's not into just getting into cards. That seems like it's worthless. It's super overproduced. But in the '90s, the early
No.
'90s, where they were making billions of cards, that was massively rare. And I never
Yeah.
got one in a pack ever. And I
Mm,
opened a lot of packs. So like you could get a I mean, there's definitely some Braves guys in that set that are Steve Avery or something who might not be a big star nowadays, but you find that card, it's 20, probably 20, $30, 15, 20, 30
wow.
bucks, and you get those in dollar boxes all the time. So
Mm,
it's fun, but yeah, just get into it, and I would do it on the side and just build it up slowly. That's what I would suggest anybody to do. And then just you'll learn and watch stuff. There's so much knowledge out there. It's the beautiful
there.
thing
Yeah.
about the modern
Almost
internet.
so much you're not sure where to go.
It's
Sometimes.
overwhelming.
Yeah.
That's the nice thing about niching though. Like if you like go, I want to do like '90s nostalgic baseball cards. There's probably 7 guys and gals that are talking about that.
Right.
So and then 7 might be enough to handle. Like you can actually get into that community and really understand it. But yeah, if you're just generally looking on how to sell cards on eBay, there is not just videos but blogs and books, even thousands upon thousands, and it can be overwhelming. That's the thing about reselling in general too, is it can be completely utterly
But
overwhelming,
yeah.
not just with the amount of stuff that you're buying and storing it and not listing it as quickly as you should, but also just the amount of knowledge you need. Thankfully, like I'm the three degree guy, so that's kind of that suits my. I don't know if I'm
Yeah.
ADHD, but I'm very curious to a fault. If I focused a little more, I probably would be more successful. But I'm doing what I want, so I
Well,
consider that
that's
success.
the dream. You know what I mean? Like you growing up, you're always taught, and going to school, it's like you're taught to be yes man. Like you go, you get a good
Yeah,
job, you do this. But I think the marketplace and like being in HR, you see it a lot more. For the daytime job, where it's like people don't necessarily want that. Like that next generation that's coming, they want that. They want that flexibility
Oh
to
yeah.
say, look, I'll take a little less if that means I get to do what I want, or like
And
it's
that
that
needs to
freedom.
be,
That's the dream
I think
nowadays.
that needs to be talked about more, is like, how much do you need? I mean, like, how much do you need? Some people want a lot and want to make a lot for certain reasons, but a lot of people just want enough so that they don't have to worry. And if
Right,
you can get to whatever level that is, doing what you love, and of course you could do something you hate and make more and possibly spend more, or maybe even be more comfortable. Sure, if that's a trade-off you want to make. But in general, I think once you like, I would definitely, I still want to build because I want to be like more comfortable
right.
than I am right now for sure. But like, I can see a time, probably even not in the too distant future, where I'm cool, not growing anymore.
Mm,
But I mean, a
yeah.
lot of what I'm doing is I love doing the content stuff. I find it fascinating. I love I love I don't know how I lucked into this. It's just how I've always been. I did 3 degrees when it didn't make a lot of sense, and then I didn't do anything with them.
With the
And then
degrees,
I
yep.
immediately opened up a auction house for no reason other than I felt like it, and it did okay. I mean, like,
Yeah.
I've just always kind of gone with the flow and survived, and been able to live my life, at least job
Mm.
wise, on my own terms.
Oh wow. And I know, like, talking of the auction house, so you and Don have been in the reselling game together for a while.
Yes.
I think
Hmm.
that's a rarity, obviously, that you can find a spouse who's like just as passionate, a partner who wants to go through that grind with you, let alone understand it.
Yeah.
So if you wouldn't mind sharing, like, what do you feel like pros, cons of somebody who's as passionate about it as you, maybe a different category or something, obviously, but
Yeah.
what are like pros and cons you guys see, like, as you navigate that path together?
Well, I mean, a con and a pro is it's like our life. Like,
Yeah.
everything we do is kind of built around our job, but our job is also our hobby, if that makes sense. It's also what we do for fun. The only other thing we really do consistently that's fun is we go to movies. We love to go to like theaters and go to movies, or we'll go to shows and stuff. But I mean, that's what we enjoy doing. Don likes going to the thrift store. I like going to the thrift store. And we met because we were both doing what we enjoyed doing. I was running an auction house and she was buying stuff and selling stuff at the auction. So
Mm,
that's how we met, doing exactly what we love to do. And on her free time, she worked at that time 12-hour days, I believe,
wow.
as a plumber pipe fitter. And then after that, she didn't need the money. She would go and buy stuff and flip it and go to auctions for fun.
Just for the
So,
passion.
and that's kind of a problem with this business a lot of times, I feel like, is like, this job is fun, especially the sourcing aspect of it. It's the back end job aspect of it, the work
Hmm.
of organizing and posting and shipping, that I struggle with
Yeah.
mightily. I've gotten much better with it over time,
Same.
partially because I've outsourced things that I'm not strong at. I love listing, so I'm pretty good at that. And I like running like the auctions. I love being in front of the camera. I'm very comfortable doing that, and I enjoy it. Shipping, I hated. I would
Yeah.
wait. I would do like 2 or 3 days handling, and there was a time 3 or 4 or 5 years ago I was always 2 3 days late on everything, and eBay didn't care apparently, and we fixed that because Dawn took over. I pushed it as far as I could because I hated it. I
Yeah.
hated shipping, which is not something you should hate if you're a reseller. But it's just, I I get all of the thrill, or all of the satisfaction of reselling from finding the item and listing it. Once it's listed, I do not care. I should, and I did, obviously I did all my shipping for 10 years and was fine. I just didn't do it as well as I should have. And then Dawn's taken over and she enjoys it. It's like meditate. For a lot of people, it's meditative. For me, it's stressful. Makes me very anxious.
Right. No, I get you. It's my wife and kids, like, they always used to think, okay, well, you just want to go sourcing, like, you just want to go to the thrift store, you just want to go to garage sales, you just want, well, sometimes no, but you need stuff to list, so ergo, yeah, I kind of need to go. And my wife, as she started to get it, would say, well, do you need help shipping? No, I don't need help shipping. That's not an issue. It's the listing for me, where it's like
Yeah.
the pictures, the measurements, the whatever the case, testing it if it's like an electronic or something, it's just like, ugh, one more thing to do. You know what I mean? And if
Yeah.
I feel like it's harder to outsource that part, you can outsource the listing, but you still got to take the pictures, or
Yeah.
you can outlist. Like it. I know Chaz and Trissa, at Side Hustle, they're working on doing the eBay like fulfillment stuff,
Yeah.
but outside of that, there ain't really anybody in there doing it. So you better eh, tolerate it at least, I guess, or yeah, enjoy it, like you said.
Yeah, I think the key to this, and just gosh, this is that sounds terrible. The key to life, but like I think one of the keys to business, at least this business, and at least in my life, something that's been very important. It's kind of like a Gary Vaynerchuk thing. Is just kind of focusing on what you're good at and going all in on that, and
Yeah,
just surviving or being good enough at all the stuff you're not good at to not get in trouble, basically. And that's what I like to do. I like to focus a lot on my content because that's something I've been good at and I've had success with,
yeah,
and 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 trying just to get by on this stuff. Do well enough, but like not worry about being the best at something that I'm never going to be the best at. I'm never going to
yeah,
be the punctual guy. I doubt it at this point. I'm never going to be the punctual guy. I'm never going to be the guy that dresses up. I'm never going to be the guy who's super organized. I just need to be organized enough to be efficient
yeah.
and try to eliminate as many headaches as possible down the road, which I'm getting better at. But like I'm not focusing on it so much. I'm focusing on doubling down on what I'm good at. If I making better content or more content or getting better at sourcing, I'll figure out how to make sure it all gets up listed. That might be
Right,
with Whatnot, for example, and even sometimes at less profit or even a loss occasionally, just to move stuff and keep things grooving.
right.
That's how it is sometimes.
I'm with you on that. I think sometimes like the whatnot's always been like, do you need a following? Do you not need a following? Do you like that kind of stuff? But I
Sure.
think if you have a realistic mindset of, yeah, I'm probably not going to get the same value, but the value of the mental space of, oh, I don't have, that's one less thing I have in my storage, my death pile, like sometimes that value is lost a little bit, I think, for some folks.
Yeah.
Um, on like with whatnot, I know you guys were kind of going heavy for a little bit. Have you guys kept up? Like, what's your plans for the different platforms? Where are you seeing the biggest ROI?
Whatnot's powerful, man. Whatnot is wild. I love eBay more. I just enjoy the process of eBay more. But Whatnot, I ebb and flow with Whatnot,
Mm,
based on what I need to get done at that time. Um, if I had a crew of people, I could get enough stuff to run Whatnot. I mean, like in the card space, Whatnot's insane. There
yeah.
are people who have multiple channels, not just like I have American Arbitrage and that's it. Not like American Arbitrage cards or Lady Arbitrage. We just have one account we do everything on. But in
Okay.
the card space, there'll be like American Arbitrage 2, American Arbitrage baseball cards. And a lot of these are running 24/7, like
Mm,
all day and all night, some of these bigger ones, because they can just get the product. And there's no doubt I could get the product for that.
yeah.
It's the I don't want to run that. I'm not interested in that. I'm not
Right.
interested in having a multi-million-dollar company selling cards, really.
Yeah.
I want if I ever really made it money wise, it would be through the social media thing, if that ever were to happen. I definitely want to improve and make more money reselling for sure, but it's never going to be at that. I just don't
Like
want that
that
kind
way.
of stress. I don't want
Yeah.
the stress. I don't need it. I don't need a at some point you don't need more money, so I don't need that amount of money to deal with that kind of stress. I just don't care.
Right. Yeah. I'm the same way. That's why, like, for me, watching, that was one of the reasons why I wanted to have like kind of conversations and with people that I respect, and you get to see like what's the behind the scenes stuff. Because, like Chaz was saying when he and I sat down and talked, he's like, I know people who have done, 10 million bucks, net like after a year or something, but it's like, I'll never do it again. I'd rather make a million, off of Amazon or something and not have to deal with the stress and not and I think like what you said is it's so spot on, I think, for a lot of folks where it's like they just want to make enough, at least not to worry. Like that's usually
Yeah.
most folks, you know what I mean? And so like that's
Yeah,
something
and,
that
and
I can appreciate.
and sure that has to do with like saving money too and preparing, for a lot of things. So it might be a bit of money, but ultimately, I mean, I think a lot of people like traditionally, especially like I'm an elder millennial. Like I grew up, I was supposed to go to college and I did. And I did all that. And then you're supposed to work till you're whatever, 65 and then retire and then
Right.
just chill. But I just don't, I think nowadays I just don't think that way. I've been functionally retired since I graduated from college, and college was pretty much just fun. Like, I mean, I
Yeah,
loved school. I've, you know, I mean, I obviously haven't been retired. I've worked a ton, but like, I've done exactly what I want to do.
right,
So it's felt like that's why I think all the time, like, it would be very boring to be retired. I would love to be selling if that's what I'm still interested in at that point. Whatever I'm interested in, to make money wise, I guess I'd love to be doing it all my whole life if I
right.
can, hopefully, because it's fun. It brings me joy. It's especially picking. Picking is such a joyous thing
It
to
is
go
fun.
out and treasure hunt. It's something
Yeah.
innately human. We love to go find diamonds in the rough, stuff that's overlooked. And that's what I noticed a lot with like my TikTok, especially because a lot of the TikToks will get pushed out beyond people who resell just to regular people. And
Hmm.
if you get through the noise of people who hate resellers, which there's a few, a lot of people just find it fascinating. You know,
Yeah.
that's, oh, that's worth something. Oh, I
Oh,
never would have thought of that. Oh, I
yeah.
got one of those. Oh,
Yeah.
I got something that's worth $50. Like, they're never going to resell it. You know, but they'll, when they look at it, they'll be like, yeah, that's valuable. And that to
Yeah.
them, like, it means something. So, um, I enjoy it, and definitely want to do it as long as I can.
I get you. I think that's part of the like the where the mistake is. Like for us growing up, it was taught, you go to school, you get the degree, you work till 65, you retire, and you better have enough money saved up or
Yeah,
you're SOL. And I
yeah,
think now it's like retirement's more of a, I don't know, and not a double edged sword, but like it's people think you have to stop and like do nothing in retirement. You know what I mean? And I don't think that's the case. So like you mentioned, as long as I can move muscles and
yeah.
do
I
stuff
mean,
out.
theoretically, I probably won't be, you won't be going as hard as you are when you're younger. But I mean, like, you might still want to go to the thrift store and sell stuff, or you might still want to go to garage sales, or I might still want to make videos. And I definitely don't want to say like I'm done with it unless I've moved on to. I guess the real thing is like I want to be mentally active as long as I can, doing the things that I love, and physically also, the things that make money too. Because
Yeah.
I mean, I find it fascinating the way the world's changing. Honestly, I find it completely and utterly fascinating, and I think that's a big advantage for us as resellers is to
Hmm.
be fascinated and curious about the things that are changing. You know, you don't like whatnot, get into it. Just try it out, whether you're selling or just buying. Whether you enjoy it or not, it's one thing, but be curious about it. Why is it popular? Why do people like it? And what's next? Because whatnot is not the end all. There's going to be
Nope.
new things coming up. AI is insane.
Yes.
Um, and I don't even understand it yet, but I'll understand it more next year, and I'll understand it more the year after that. And I'm sure more and more of us will be using it in our day to day. I mean, gosh, I already use it to do backgrounds on my pictures a lot of times. I
Yeah.
use it on several things I don't even comprehend sometimes. Sometimes my description on eBay, and
Hmm.
there's people who are doing a lot more AI than me that are really into it. It's fascinating, and I love that. I don't want to be the person who just like back in my day. I mean, I am that way too, but like I want to be the person who's always down for whatever's next. If it's eBay's gone tomorrow, what's the next? What's the next?
Yeah.
I'm down.
Yeah. There's always something. I think it's important, and that's really to be successful, regardless of whether you like reselling, whether you just an entrepreneur in general, or just in business, right? If you want to be successful, it's important to understand trends, to understand the direction the industry's headed, because like you said, like you look at AI where now, yeah, eBay, you have the listing description that they can use. Poshmark, you can take, three pictures and it'll generate the listing for you.
Yeah.
Um, like it's going to be something more prevalent. It'll never replace us like as sourcers, but there might come a point where it does a bulk of the work, and
Which is
I'm sure
awesome.
fees will
I mean,
go up,
it's
whatever,
definitely a
but
double-edged sword. I mean, obviously it'll replace certain things that people are doing right now for employment, but it'll make it easier for people to work for themselves, I think, in the long term. Obviously, like you said,
yeah,
like I can only imagine in 10 years how much I mean, like it would make perfect sense. I mean, I can't imagine a situation where I'm not taking a picture of an item and it's just listing it pretty much at that point,
and
or
yeah,
in some form, or I'm using some sort of thing like that, at least on one of the sites that I'm selling on. It just makes perfect sense because that is a major issue. You don't like listing, or I mean, yeah, maybe it's not your favorite thing to do, rather. and most people don't. So I mean, you want to get rid of, and obviously eBay and Amazon and all those places want to cut out as many headaches as possible so that more people are selling more items and they're making more money.
Yeah,
Um, so it's I'm fascinated by what the future holds with all that, and I'm down to be using it as soon as I humanly can.
I got you. Well, thank you, man. What? So whether it's Trash to Cash, I know you guys got. What are you guys on episode 108 next? I
Yeah,
guess.
I think 108 or 109. I don't.
Man, like that's
It's been
crazy.
on for a while. It's 2 years now. It's been over 2 years that we've been doing
How,
it. I mean,
how do you partner, or how do you identify people like that that you want to work with on a? I mean, for 2 years, that's a long, allegedly other podcasts are falling apart.
yeah,
And
allegedly, right?
how do you
I
guys do that, and how does that stay connected?
I got along with Dave, the other guy, the other main guy when we started the podcast. Kevin Commonwealth Picker's on it now, but I clicked with Dave immediately. It's hard to
Mm,
even explain.
yeah.
Immediately, first call, I was like, yeah, I like this dude, and we were. I think we had our podcast within 2 weeks,
Wow.
and we've been close friends, for years now at this point. And the I just he's such a and Kevin too. I mean, they're my best friends.
Mm,
They're just great dudes. But like, I could be myself around them, and they can be themselves. I feel like around our little group of people, and we can tease
yeah.
each other, and everybody's a good sport about it. I mean, it's definitely evolved, which is kind of the coolest thing about a podcast. I
Yeah.
found is how it evolves over time.
Yeah.
We realized pretty quickly I mean, as much as we love reselling, we're not particularly we're not the numbers guys, although we pay attention to them as much as we
Right.
need to. We're more, I don't know what we are, but we were like, we wanted to just relax and goof off basically. And that's kind of what it's devolved into. And we do try to talk about reselling subjects in there from time to
Yeah.
time, but we also have learned, especially with Dave, who is ADHD,
Yes.
ADHD Dave.
Yeah.
We kind of, and I think that's important, like, because I come from a theater background and improv, and it's yes and. That is the major key to improv is yes and. You don't say yes but or no to
Right.
anything that's
Yeah.
happening. You say yes and then you continue on that. So if Dave gets on a little roll, or Kevin gets on a roll, or I get on a roll, and it's grooving, we just continue it. We don't stop to talk about a different topic. There's no need to. If we're having a good vibe, and then I feel like people come and listen, and that's what I love about it too, is people will come up to us more so for the podcast than probably
Right.
my channel or my TikTok that has a ton of people on it because it's so
Yeah.
casual. The podcast is just people who listen to you for an hour and a half for some reason, and get to know you. You can't really hide your personality or your weaknesses or your strengths, I guess. If you're talking an hour and a half a week for 2 years, people get to know you. It's just
Yeah.
cool. It's beautiful. I love it because people come up to me and they know me already, and some people are off put by that, and I'm not. I find that makes it easy for me. I'm like, oh, you already
Yeah.
know me. I
I'm
can just be myself, and then now I just got to get to know you because we're obviously. I feel like we're already friends because you like me, so we're gonna get
right.
along. I would imagine on
Yeah.
some level. So now it's my only job to try to get to know you, and
Yeah.
that's hard to do because there's a lot of people, but do your best.
Yeah. I think that's one thing that it tends to feel sometimes, and there are obviously those that still exist out there that do it. They stage items, or they frame it up, and it's a big production. And that's why for me, like, as I do this, I think of, you brought up Gary Vee. I love Gary Vee. That guy, it's just like you just want to listen, and he just gets you pumped in the morning or something. It's like, well,
Yes,
what the fuck are you doing?
very
Like,
true.
oh,
Yep,
okay, I'll get up, I'll go do it.
yep.
And it's always like paying attention to the one, or like, it's because that was one thing for me coming up, like reselling. It's like, well, yeah, okay, I get, look for this item or look for that, but like, I want to hear the like real stuff, like the, hey, this family member was this way, this was this week, like, it was a struggle, but here's how I did it, or here's how I do it. Obviously it's not gonna work for everybody, but so that's what, to me, like, I like about the podcast is that yeah, it's friends. Like, we all give each other crap, but there are also those moments where it's like, okay, yeah, this was real, or this is ridiculous, or allegedly this sucks, or like,
Yeah,
the word of the week, I guess, right now. But and that's why I wanted to like have unscripted, just like real conversations, and just like talk, and wherever the conversation goes, like that's what I want to do,
That's what I
and
love,
help,
man.
help
That's what
some.
podcasts are for. I mean, like you look at some of the best podcasts in the world, in my opinion, are typically comics,
Yeah,
comic based. Not just because they're funny, that does make it easier to and more palatable sometimes, but they're just great at talking. They're great
yeah,
at listening and talking, and because they're always trying to get stories out of stuff and see
hmm,
the funny side of life or the interesting or the truth, because a lot of times they're just truth tellers, and that's what's funny about it because they're actually willing to say stuff. But I think a good podcast just goes with the flow and lets every podcast be whatever it is. I mean, that's one thing. We don't do a lot of guests on Trash for Cast. I'm pretty like I don't know if I'm adamant about it, but I don't really love having guests. But if I do have guests, I always want it to be like, how are you going to deal with us? You're coming in like I love a podcast that has a personality and a style. And if you're coming in here, I don't really want to interview per se. I want to have a conversation. You're going to get in a trash to cash conversation, and
right.
you're going to have fun with it, or you're
I
going to be
get with
awkward,
us.
or it's going to be weird for you, or you're going to enjoy it. And
Yeah,
hopefully we're friendly and everything. We're not rude to anybody, but like, I kind of like that we're just a podcast that people just come in and hang out and listen to what we have to say. And then if we do bring somebody in, they're just kind of thrown into our world.
right.
I like that aspect of it.
Yeah, I think it's been a while since you guys had a guest, and I won't name the
It's
last
typical,
guest,
yeah, yeah.
but
It's typically like when Kevin is gonna miss an episode, we'll have somebody come in and fill in for him. But we haven't. We used to do a guest like almost every week when we
oh
first
wow,
started, because that's how a lot of podcasts do it, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I just particularly don't want to be an interview podcast
yeah,
myself. I think I'd be open to an interview podcast, but I just wouldn't want to do it the way that I had seen them before for years. Just like,
hmm,
oh, who are you? Um, and then just talk about the same things you hear everybody like. If you get in a conversation like this, you free flow and you go to different places. That's awesome. But if you just stick to like a script with every person, you just hear the same things on every show
over and over.
about resellers, and you already know where they live, and it's cool to get into those moments and those instances where you learn something new about somebody or you learn something new about selling or reselling. That's what's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, that's what I like about it. I think that's what I'm hopeful to do. There's some other special projects in the works. Like we got a book coming, a kid's
Awesome,
book
man.
coming out. Hopefully by the end of the year, we'll see. But
Congrats,
uh,
dude.
thank you, man. It's like that's what I enjoy about it, and I think that's what's needed because it just at a certain point when you've been in it, like you can only hear the same message so many times, regardless of how it's said. But it's then the behind the scenes stuff. That's what I enjoy the most is like seeing the bickering. Like for you guys, it's like the giving each other a hard time. You go, are they mad
And
at each?
that and
Like
you've seen us you've seen me and Kevin together. That's exactly how we are in person.
yeah,
Like I'm always making fun of Kevin, and that's just kind of I think that's cool. The more we can get, and then there definitely is room for like the straightforward business YouTube, the straightforward business podcast that focus on number. There's room for that because that's
yeah,
important. But like, I think there's a lot of us who just crave connection. We want more connection in
yes,
our life, and especially in this kind of a job where we're not going to an office or anything. We're not necessarily going to be talking to anybody unless we put ourselves out there or we
right,
get into these communities. So I think that's what a lot of people with a podcast love about it is they kind of just become a part of little inside joke,
hmm,
part of and not even necessarily like a like us joking around, but like you're part of an inside thing with even a
yeah,
serious podcast. Like there's the way that they list things on eBay, and then you learn, and then you want to do it like them, and then you're part of something, and
yeah.
I
You're
think
an
people enjoy
insider
that.
at that point.
An insider, yeah.
That's what I think. I think you guys will do well. I mean, in whatever you guys end up doing in the future. I mean, you, Don, trash to cash, your card stuff, like, because people, I think, above all else, yes, they want knowledge and things like that. Like, well, I don't know how to do it, but like you said, that's a portion of the audience. But I think, large in part, it's not difficult work to do necessarily. Um, there are ways you can improve process or ways you can do certain
Yeah.
things, but it's that connection of like not feeling alone, not like because like you said, we're not going in an office. It's you and then the backup's you and like
Yeah.
like it's the connection of feeling like okay, somebody else is either struggling with this or this is how they handled that victory or like that connection feeling, I think, is probably one of the biggest needs or desires of society, at least probably the last 20, 30 years at least.
I'd have to
So
agree with you. Yeah, it's definitely it's weird. Because I feel like physically people have kind of become less connected because there's with a lot of jobs being at home now, just
yeah,
regular work jobs, a lot of people can work from home, but at the same time, weirdly, you could be more connected than ever, but it's like in this online form, and it's not just like typing. You could be doing video, you can be on lives with people every night if you want to, and you're with your friend
right,
group and film it or not film it. You can go on Zooms with 40 people and talk if you want to and not record it. I mean, so there's so much options to like be more social than
yeah.
ever was even humanly possible. Because I mean,
Well,
like,
from
there's people I talk to in Australia almost every day. I never
wow,
would have probably talked to people in Australia before.
yeah,
Not that because it just wouldn't have opened up. So that's a really cool and interesting thing, and I get to learn about their culture and stuff, and it's kind of fun. But so there's a lot of opportunity, but at the same time, you have to I think be a little more proactive in the modern age for that.
yeah,
It's easy to kind of get in your shell and not go and search that out because back in the day, whether you liked your job or not, you got to go to work. So you're going to be probably friends with the people who are on your shift,
or at least pretend, yeah,
or at least pretend, or at least have social interactions with them and
yeah,
have, the Office, the classic TV show. I mean, they weren't all friends. I mean, they kind of were, but they weren't. There's people that there was that whole dynamic, almost an high school dynamic. There was the cool
yeah,
ones, there was
clicks,
the rebels, there were the nerdy ones, there were the people that people didn't hang out with. There, we kind of that's kind of how a lot of people grew up, and it's changing.
yeah. I agree with you. I appreciate that, man. It's what's you talked about the video thing you and Dave are doing. Like, do you want to talk about that? Like,
Yeah, sure,
what,
man. Yeah,
what is,
it's gonna start on the 10th of November.
okay,
It's called AI Picks. Of course, Dave's doing something AI driven, but it's
right?
about basically a computer is choosing the movies we watch every week, and then
Oh, wow.
we review them. But you know us, we review them loosely.
Yeah.
We just recorded our first one a couple
Oh,
days ago. It was cool because like at this point, like, we have Kevin's not in this podcast because he doesn't really want to do a movie one, I don't believe. So we have Dave's friend who's in the industry, the movie
okay.
industry, and like that was with Dave, and Dave worked in that industry making
For a while.
camera stuff. Dave just won an Emmy for that, by the way. He just got it in the mail today. The
Oh,
little
did he? He ended up
certificate. Yeah,
getting
yeah.
one.
He actually ended up getting a certificate. He didn't get the statue, but
Nice.
and great, the Barrett, who's the other co-host, worked with him at Small HD. But um, yeah, it's we're just talking movies. The first movie is going to be Blade Runner, the original Blade Runner, which
Oh,
I had never seen. I had
wow.
never seen Blade Runner, so we talked about like like what it meant, like what they were saying, like the cinematography, and just it was a little more serious. We still goofed off a little bit, but for the most, I mean, and probably over time it'll depend because we have a different host in there with us. I'm definitely it's different for me because I'm really excited about it because it's something that's not resale related. I'm
Right.
curious if people will be interested, and I
Yeah.
do really really get excited for that challenge
Hmm.
because if they're not, how are we going to figure that out? And that's kind of fun.
Well, I think people buy into. That's where people maybe they don't grow as fast as they want, but that's where the sustainability comes into play. Because like you can tell when somebody legit hates their job. Like
Yeah.
if they don't want to be doing it, you can tell at some point. Like you pick up on it. So to be able to do something you're passionate about, I think eventually it's bound to succeed. Now, how fast it might take off, or like,
Who knows? Yeah. And that's
but
the
the
beauty
client
of it.
you as the brand.
When you look back at all this stuff, like there's all these milestones everybody wants to hit, especially with social media.
Yeah,
But I mean, it's as corny as it sounds, the real interesting part when you look back on it is the journey, is like what you learned along the way and how you figured out, to get your voice really. Because I feel
yeah,
like most people have a voice that probably thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people could connect to,
yeah,
and follow or subscribe to. It's just figuring out how to find that voice and be authentically yourself. I'm really excited about this new podcast. It's something we're going to do weekly. It's AI picks, and we'll see how it goes. But the one thing is, it's going to be us. It's going to be us
yeah.
talking about movies. And if you watch like Trash the Cash from the beginning, I think it was the first or second episode, we did a Dune movie review because I was obsessed with Dune and Dave hated it. Um, So we talked and we even did a short on it. Like, so we've always, me and Dave have always connect. Like when we go hang out, if I go to his house, we're typically going to a movie at least once or twice.
Right.
So we both love, especially going to the theater. I used to when I was younger, like go pretty much every week with my mom to the movies. We pick whatever like, and it would be bad movies. Like I didn't care. I just like going.
The
The
experience.
the app the kind of like going to a ballpark. Sometimes you know it's not going to be a good
Yeah.
game, but you just want to go. Like this week, I think we're gonna go see. Me and Don are gonna go see Priscilla, the new
Oh,
Elvis one.
yeah, yeah,
Um, and then we saw, what did we see, the Killers of the Flower Moon last week, I believe. And then Napoleon's the one I'm really excited for. Napoleon is being what I wanted to do before I was a reseller was to be a
yeah.
teacher. I wanted to be a history teacher and I wanted to do French history. A little bit after the Napoleonic era, I wanted to do like the late 1800s, fin de siècle to the like World War One. That was the area
Mhm.
that I really wanted to get into. So any French history, I will eat up. So I'm excited for that. So I love those dramas, the history drama
That
stuff
does look
personally.
good. The Napoleon one, yeah, that looks, and the Priscilla too. Just it's a different perspective. I feel like how loosely based it is. I don't know.
Yeah, we went for the first time. Like part of going like picking across America is like us being able to visit places. And 2 years ago was the first time me and Don did it. And we didn't go to Memphis, and this time we did. And that might have been my favorite place in the whole trip was going to Graceland.
Graceland.
Um, it was not just like, I mean, Don loves Elvis and has a connection to the music, and I do too. But it just there's so many subtle things, like not just like the story of Elvis, a lot of the stuff and the details I had forgotten or didn't know, but
Yeah.
just the Graceland, the house itself is stuck in an era that's so fascinating, like the late 60s, early 70s, but
Mm,
high tech. So like his
yeah.
whole house was as high tech as it could be for 1977,
Yeah. Right.
right? So, but it's interesting being a reseller going to that house and going, these are the houses a lot of times that I'm going to when I'm going to estate sales or when my buddy used to buy out estates and I'd go visit afterwards. It's these houses that had these kind of items because now it's been 50 years and a lot of these people have passed away, unfortunately. So you're
Yeah.
going in and you're seeing those reel to reel players, and it's just it was kind of fascinating to see them in their era, in their time, in their ambiance, and
Yeah.
I found all that. I don't know what about it. Like that was the thing I liked most about Graceland was just the time capsule aspect of it.
Yeah.
How it was just all the same as it was in 1977.
Mm.
And it told a lot about the person he was and how interesting he was, and I love I'm a history guy, so it was very fascinating. I'm on a
No,
tangent.
I think no. Like that's to me like that's part of it too. Like one thing I enjoy. I went to an estate sale. Well, it's like a neighborhood garage sale, but the one ended up being more like an estate sale on my way to work the other morning, and it was like you see boxes of these like MCM, probably late 60s, early 70s, like articulating lamps.
Oh, I love that stuff.
They were still in the box,
Dude, that's insane. I love it.
and they were selling the box by, like you get to sell like six of them or whatever at a time. They didn't want to like one at a time, but you go, if this is what's outside, what's inside that you don't want to like have people
Exactly.
come in yet? Like that's what like because this is prestige. I mean, you can't get better than that. Like as far as condition, it's new, but like to me, I find luckily that lucked out for me and it was valuable. So it's like, okay, yeah, that's worth picking up. Maybe I keep one, sell the other five. But the other stuff, it's you get like I find anyway. Sometimes I'll buy something just because I enjoy it, like you said, So like lamps or like this that furniture, certain things. It's like you appreciate the beauty or the artistry that went into it, but maybe it's not something that's the most valuable. But it's something I enjoy. And it's like, dude, it's just so cool to think that it lasted this long. It's in this shape. Like it does allow you to kind of escape reality sometimes, if depending on the person. But and go, man, this is what it's like. So I've never been to Graceland, but I would like to go for that same reason that you said. It gives that behind the scenes like vibe. You really get a better understanding of who the artist was. And
Yeah.
that's something
What they
despite.
cared about, what they were interested in,
Mhm.
nuances that you didn't really, because I wasn't alive when he was alive, and I
Right.
didn't know him, and I didn't follow him as in depth as other people did. But I think picking in its purest form, I mean, we want to be able to survive and make a living doing it, but I think a picker in their purest form is someone who's curating, you know, stuff that they love and are putting it back out into the world, as corny as that sounds. So,
Yeah,
yes, I think a good picker should occasionally buy stuff that's not going to be profitable or not very profitable. Maybe
yeah,
even you'll lose money just because you like those pieces right there that you're talking about, those light fixtures new in the box. Somebody, whether it was you or who, if you sold one or you sold them all, somebody is going to love those and going
yeah,
to appreciate those again and going to decorate a room or something in a way that brings them happiness and joy, and it's giving it second life, which is really cool. I love. It's weird that you were talking about light fixtures, and it's weird that I like light fixtures because I'm
yeah.
the sports card guy and the
Right.
toy guy. I like MCM stuff. I think that comes a little bit from Dawn. Um, we did a lot of furniture and stuff at our store in the past, but I love light fixtures especially. We back in the day we found like a so before Art Deco there was Art Nouveau, so like
Yeah,
1910s light fixture back when like the beginning of when
right.
light was even possible to be put in homes. I guess it was probably 1920s ish, so late Art Nouveau, and we
Yeah.
sold a piece and it went to another antique store, which
Hmm.
makes me I mean possibly they could have sold it. We sold it for a good amount of money, but
Right.
another part of me thought maybe they just put it up because I
Yeah.
think I looked and the antique store was like in an old building. Like maybe they were just trying to make it aesthetically pleasing for the patrons or something.
Yeah. It's time
Um,
accurate.
or
It's
maybe
probably
they just had the right people that would pay the right money for it and appreciate it in the right way or whatever way it's appreciated. But um, I think that's one of the coolest things about what we do. And I mean, I feel that all the time with baseball cards. Like you were talking about Sid Breams and Mark Limke. Like I don't know if I mean I got a little collection the other day from Jimmy Old School Flips, who's
oh,
another
okay. Yeah.
picker. He just sent me like his childhood collection. He's like, sell it, do whatever you want from it with it. And one of the cards in there, not valuable, like a $2-3 card, was a Carney Langsford 1979 Angels rookie.
Wow.
Now he played for the A's, which is my team in
Yeah.
the '90s, the late '80s, the early '90s. I'm like, oh, part of it. First, I saw it. I'm like, this is early. He's playing on the Angels. I had actually forgotten he even played on the Angels. I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
is this his rookie? And then I go and I look it up. I'm like, it's his rookie. I'm almost as excited about that as a $40 rookie. I
Yeah.
found some really nice rookies in that lot.
Wow.
Um, I just love the history. I mean, I'm the kid who would turn the card over
You
and
read the
read the
stats.
stats, see where they were from, see how old they were.
Yeah.
I vividly remember like going through my cards a lot in 1994 when I moved from California to Utah. I've always been fairly social, but there was like a year where I didn't have many friends because I didn't know anybody yet. So I'd be playing with my cards a lot or toys, and I was looking at the back and I was reading Gary Sheffield's
Mm.
stats. I'm like, oh man, this dude, he's in his prime. I was thinking I was 10, he was like 27. I'm like, dude, this
Yeah.
guy's going to be around for another 15 years. He's going to hit another 500. I don't know what I was thinking, and he had a pretty good career.
Yeah.
But I was just like, I just remember vividly just like getting into like not just his stats, but like who he was, where he was from, how old he was, and all of that, while I was putting all my cards in teams, and then I'd put them in my little carrying case or whatever. And then the next week, the next Saturday, I would take them all out and be like, I'm going to put them in sets this week, so I could just have an excuse to look through them again
Yeah.
and read them.
Yeah.
And that brought me, and I think that's exactly what I'm doing now at 39. I'm going. I literally today went to the card shop and just looking through boxes, trying to find treasures and stories and memories and undervalued stuff.
Well, I think that's sometimes, yeah, the undervalue. It's everything has a value. It's just a question of monetary, intrinsic, and people will pay up for like a card like that where it's like nobody else will care, but because I have an attachment with this player or this team or whatever, like that's where the value picks up. So maybe you get a little more, whether it's personal value, maybe not resale value, but like that's
Sometimes there is, though. I mean, if it's a hard enough card to find, I have sold cards of a player to a person with the same last name from the same hometown they were from.
oh,
I didn't know
wow.
if that was a brother, cousin, sister, or whatever, but it probably was. You know what I mean? It was definitely a relative. So I mean, like that, people are out there. Especially with these random players. That's why, like, especially like autographs. If you can get them for a quarter, it's almost worth getting anyone in the world because
Yeah,
I mean, that's really cheap. I understand, but like
right.
sometimes you can get them that cheap in lots. There's somebody out there in the world who will pay $2, $3, $4, $5 because it's it's not just that they're related, but it's like this person, sometimes I like finding players who went to small colleges, Appalachian State or something. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
well, there's not a lot of people who go there. And if it, like I have an affinity towards certain players that went to the University of Utah when I was there. Eric Weddle, who played in the
Oh, okay.
college I played in the pros forever. Eric Weddle. So I like Eric Weddle stuff because he was in college at the same time I was in college. So um, at the same school. So people are like that, and people, I think even the smaller schools, even more so. There's like because there's not a lot of people who went there that had that kind of success professionally
Yeah, make
in
it that
sports. Yeah,
level. Yeah, I could see that. Eric Weddle, I remember that guy.
yeah,
Man.
he was good, man. He was pretty good. There's a couple guys who did. Um, so I went on a Mormon mission when I was like 20 years ago. So there's a couple guys when I was gone that were really good, like Alex Smith, the quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
But so I technically went to school at the same time as him, but like I was gone for 2 of those years, so I don't remember anything. I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool, man. I got you. So, I know your time's valuable, so and I'll see you again here shortly. But um, what's like one big advice for overcoming the mental hurdles that you would suggest as an intelligent individual who is pursuing stuff he loves? Like, how do you break out of that habit, or like, what's a tip, something you could give somebody that maybe you don't think about regularly or we don't hear about often in a lot of content that you feel like could help make a difference for somebody?
I mean, first off, I struggle with that stuff every day. Every day is a struggle for a different reason, for whatever reason. Maybe I feel anxious, maybe I'm not in the mood to do this, or maybe I'm so hyperactive and so into it that I'm not being effective. So I think try to be patient and easy on yourself and accept the ebbs and flows of this. You don't always want to fight against the current every moment, but really cash in when you're feeling it. When you're feeling
Mm-hmm.
motivated, list more, do more content, and when you're not feeling it, have some grace, I guess, for yourself. Give yourself a break. I struggle with that. Everybody does, but I
Yeah,
think if we could just be a little easier on ourselves and not worry about every moment being perfect, and then sometimes just accepting the fact that maybe we're not feeling it or we're down a certain day and that this might not be the day, that we're going to reach our full potential, and that's okay. My mom growing up, she always used to tell me about the 48-hour rule.
mm,
In general, obviously there's some big life events that aren't like this, but in general, mood wise, anything that you're worried about or you're super stressed about now, a lot of things in 48 hours you won't be thinking about. So just try
yeah,
to remember. I mean, obviously there's big things that happen that aren't like that, but a lot
yeah,
of things that we
I,
worry about and that we stress about. And I'm a person who worries and is super anxious and OCD and stressed out a lot. A lot of that stuff is not stuff you even think about 2 days later. So as best I can, I try to think about that. I try to think, okay, whatever's going on right now in 2 days, I'm going to be somewhere else. So why waste time or waste not even time, but just emotional energy and stress if I can help it. And sometimes that helps, and sometimes it doesn't. And you
yeah.
just got to
Right. I mean,
accept that.
it's true though. Like, that's what for me. It's you think about, and I think it's been said, but it's like you got to identify what success means to you, and like if it's reselling, if it's owning a different business, if it's spending time with your family, if it's like whatever it is, like what's going to make that successful? Are you trying to create memories with your family? Are you trying to grow your business? Are you okay just kind of playing it? But yeah, we are tough on ourselves, I think, just as entrepreneurs in general. But what success mean to you? And like that can be a lot of different things for a lot of different people.
I feel like
um
the older I get, or the more I think about it, I feel like success or even happiness a lot of times comes with like congruency, like
mhm.
being aligned with what you care about. And maybe that's you building a business right now and not having a family, or maybe you need to spend more time on your business. You don't need to always your what you feel is important might not be what other people think is important, and that's okay. I mean, family's important obviously, but there might be times when you need to be focusing on this right now and not that so much,
Yeah.
and who's to say? So I think as long as I'm most happy when I'm most congruent with what I'm giving a crap about at that moment. That's typically when I'm feeling the best.
Yeah, I think it's important to remember your why. Remember why you're doing it or what you're doing it like. What are you working hard for? And that 48 hour, I don't think I've heard it worded that way, but it is pretty accurate. Like
Yeah.
most of the time, you're stressing about at least other things, not the same stuff you were 48 hours
Yeah.
ago.
That's kind of funny how like stress and all that works, anxiety, all those kind of things work. It tends to attach to whatever's around. And I've
Mm-hmm.
had times in my life where I'll feel anxiety, but I'm not worried about anything. And I feel like my anxiety is almost just grasping for something. And I gotta like get myself out of that mindset by honestly trying to stay busy, which is usually the best thing for me personally, or staying focused on something productive. But yeah, it's typically in 48 hours. Hopefully you'll be mellow, but you could just be worried about something else. So,
Well, I'm not a doctor, Carrie, but I'm pretty sure you do have ADHD. Like you're
oh, I'm
ADD
pretty sure
or
I do.
ADHD, like
I'm pretty sure I do.
there's
I
no
think
way.
it, I think most people in this day and age with just phones and computers and everything, we I would imagine as not a doctor, that most of us have it for sure.
Well, I think that's one thing, like, because I have severe ADD, and so like people will be like, "Oh, you're tired. Go get coffee or something." I'm like, "No, no, you don't understand. I take an upper to slow my brain down. Like for most people, it'd be an upper, but I need it to concentrate. But like the
Yeah,
way you talk, and it's true. Sometimes for me, like it's you. If I can just stay busy, I don't need to. I'm not going to stress about that or this or because your mind goes to that task or
I'm
okay,
the
I got to
same
get
way.
this done. You know.
With coffee is when I actually get more like level and more
Mm-hmm.
focused than like actually more anxious. Like, so I hear you. Some people are
Yeah,
like that, man.
yeah, for sure. I appreciate it, man. So I'll link, all your stuff below.
Yes,
Make
please.
sure that
Thank you, man.
people can support and continue to support. I mean, you're, just I appreciate your time, man. It means a lot. I respect you and Don,
Oh,
and
thank you,
the
dude.
hustle that you guys have, and
Appreciate
the
it, bro.
hey, I mean, like it's cool to. I feel like I've been doing reselling for a few years now. Well, probably like almost 5 now, I guess, but and to get to have conversations with these folks that you go, it feels like they're crushing it, at least on what you see. But I appreciate the behind the scenes stuff, like the mindset you guys have and the determination, and like to be able to witness it firsthand is a different thing. So I appreciate you willing to talk with me, on here and kind of hopefully help somebody out there. If they
I
hear
sure
the
hope
way you
so.
worded it, then I'm cool with that. The goal is to ultimately get kind of. I was telling Chad, like the success to me is like on YouTube, anyways. We'll be seeing the comments and like the conversation, kind of widespreading of like, oh yeah, no, I dealt with it this way, or I did it that way, or this is what helps me or this and to me I feel like that's gonna be success. I don't know, subscriber, like all that kind of stuff, it doesn't really matter, I guess, as long as it's kind of therapeutic for me and then hopefully it helps
And
somebody else out.
facilitates some good conversation and some understanding. I like it.
Yeah, so for sure, so I appreciate it, Carrie. We'll meet up here soon,
For
and
sure, dude. We're both in
I got
Vegas,
some
man. Let's go thrifting.
for you guys, both of you, so
Thank you,
uh
dude. I appreciate
just let me, well, a lot, I think, maybe more than a tub, but
that.
like just of cards. My sons were like, "What's
Dude,
in here? Pokemon? Nope,
I
no
love,
Pokemon."
dude, you don't even understand how much I love looking through that stuff. I'll find a few things that are sellable, but I mean, part of it is just the joy. And then sometimes I'll film it because I like to share it with people. It's just cool. It's I've talked about it on my card channel a lot, is sports cards especially. And I think picking is too, but cards especially is therapeutic for me. It's a place where I can almost meditate. I'll go
Yeah.
through a box and I'll be thinking not just about like what's valuable, but like memories or just what's
Hmm.
cool, what looks, I don't know, whatever it is about it. I don't know what sparked in my brain as a 7 year old when I got my first box of cards, but
Mm.
it's still there. And it's just, and the more I've given into that and found a way to make it productive in a way that I can make money and support myself,
Right.
the more cool it's been, honestly.
I got to ask you last thing. V friends. are you doing the cards or no? Not yet.
I haven't yet. No, I haven't. I've yet to do them. Believe it or not, I talked about this on the podcast. Gary actually, which tripped me out, dude, because like I was
There.
started everything because of Gary V. Like
Yeah.
0 followers, 0 subscribers, everything because of
Everything.
hearing Gary V. And then he actually contacted me. It tripped me out. Like it was in my others on Instagram, so I didn't even notice it at first. And it was like a little group chat with a couple people, and he was like, "Yeah, you gotta come to the national card show," which I didn't do because I had other plans. Never doing that again. I'm going to every national card show from here on out
Yeah.
because I missed a cool opportunity to meet him and get some V friends and stuff. But I haven't done it. I haven't gotten into him honestly. I don't know why. Partially I don't see him in the bargain boxes and the
Yeah.
as much, and I'm not really looking in showcases too much. So where I like to live, I don't see them. But if I
Yeah.
saw a V friend, I'd probably buy it. So that I mean, especially if it was something I could flip. That's just how I am. I
Right.
don't
Right.
collect too much. I think there's an arbitraging one. There's like an arbitraging aardvark or at some animal that's an
No,
arbitrager. If I found that, I would buy and keep that.
yeah. I got you. Okay. Cool, man. Well, I appreciate it. Yeah. Just hit me up. Let me know when you guys want to, try to sort. It's a little tougher for me trying to keep up with some of the full timers doing the day job and the
I
coaching
hear you. The cool
sports.
thing about that, man, is just like go, hey, dude, I've got a couple time slots this week. Are you available? That's the easiest way to do it because
Yeah.
I mean, we have a lot of things going on, but it's mostly pliable or
Yeah.
malleable to a certain extent, which is the way we wanted to live our life. With the only thing that's kind of changed over the last 2 years for me is podcasting. Now I got like 2 days, nights a week that I'm doing that for sure because
Wow.
you got to be consistent with it or else it,
Yeah.
it, it, it doesn't really work. But other than that, I'm pretty open to any weekday, dude. So just let me know when or afternoon or evening even. Just let me
Yeah.
know or weekend. We'll figure something out.
Hey, brother. I appreciate you. Again, most people are probably following you already, but if not, go support Carrie and Don, American Arbitrage, Lady
We appreciate
Arbitrage.
it, Lady Arbitrage. Yes.
What is it? American Arbitrage 30, right? Just in whatever description we're
Yeah,
talking
I'm
about.
American. Yeah, I'm American Arbitrage on all the sites, and then if you add cards to it, that's my card site. And then we have all this other podcast stuff, which I'm sure you'll hear about. But there's a lot that, like a lot of us on YouTube, we have way too many channels.
Right?
So
Awesome.
follow
Well,
whatever you want if you want.
I appreciate you guys. And yeah, for sure, I'll hit you up and we'll get together again here soon.
Sounds good, bro.
Awesome. Thanks, brother. Appreciate you. You guys have a good night.
You too, man.
All right, brother.